Welcome. This is my first video and I wanted to do something a little special. I got this idea from a couple of other YouTube artists who, literally artists, like drawing digital artwork, where they would go through and they would have people submit their portfolios so that they could go through and give them some constructive feedback on what can be improved. I decided I wanted to do the same thing, but with my own spin on it, in that I'm helping people improve their writing rather than their drawing. So without further ado, I would like to focus my first couple of videos on old works that I've done, mostly flash fictions, one short story. That way I can give you an idea of how the series is going to go, and then I will start using works that my friends have done and go from there. So here we go. The first one I want to introduce you to is a flash fiction that I did, I think it was back in 2019. I haven't touched it since 2020, and I think now that I'm a much better writer, I can go back and give it a really good look through and see where it's lacking and what it's missing. And I'm also going to share with you some of the feedback that I got for it from the professional editor from the competition that I submitted it to originally. So let's... a little higher. There we go. That should do it. Okay. So this is entitled Go. Well, at least it was when I initially submitted it. And for a flash fiction, a short title is pretty good, but I think a more impactful one is a line that later on the main character Crystal states, and it's "Mamas don't hurt their babies." Now, I think it's a lot more impactful because go is very generic. It's one word. It has a lot of power to it in that it's a verb. Kind of like how Disney has gone and it took some of its titles of recent works like Tangled and Frozen and turned them into verbs rather than making them originally what they were, rather than calling it Rapunzel or Ice Queen. But in this case, I think go is too generic of a verb. So I think adding "Mamas don't hurt their babies," which is a line that Crystal says later on in the flash fiction, is going to be a lot more impactful. So because I got a with comments feedback on this one, the person who initially judged this piece said it was really well written, the grammar was great, everything was good, it just seemed kind of pointless. And I'll tell you why at the end. The second time I submitted this one, the editor came back and said it was well written, I liked it, but I really didn't relate to the main character because she is a 17-year-old girl who is upset that her mother didn't sign a permission form for her, and it seemed like a big tantrum to throw over not getting a permission slip. So let's just go into this with those two feedbacks in mind. So, the microwave screamed and Crystal rushed into the kitchen, already 15 minutes late for work. She wrapped her hand up in the hem of her convenience store polo shirt and grabbed the decrepit little mug inside. It burned hot and steamed like a train. She blew on it as she walked. The particle floorboards creaked and popped under her feet in the living room. She made enough noise to stir her mother, a 37-year-old woman who looked 87 in the early Kentucky morning. Okay. In a flash fiction work, you only have 750 words, not including the title. So in here you can see down at the bottom I have 703 words. If I took away the title, I have 698 words. So in the first paragraph, or two, we are establishing a couple of things. First of all, Crystal is rushing around. She is 15 minutes late for work. She works at a convenience store. The mug is not good. It's cracked. Probably. Decrepit just means it's old and aged. Then we talk about the particle floorboards creaked and popped under her feet in the living room. Basically, they live in a house that does not have solid foundations. The purpose was to insinuate that she lived in a trailer home. And then her 37-year-old mother, who looked 87 in the early Kentucky morning. So, all of this to say, this is a young girl living in the Appalachia mountain range. They probably live in a holler or something similar, or just a trailer park even, if that's what you want to imagine. A mother and daughter who live alone, they're making ends meet. And either the mother is ill or something is going on that keeps her from being able to take care of the main character, Crystal, as you would typically expect a mother to take care of their teenage daughter. Mama, Mama, wake up, Crystal murmured in a sweet southern drawl, grabbing a piece of paper off the side table tray so she wouldn't put a coffee ring on it. Mama gave a curt noise, slowly coming around. What? Made you some coffee. Oh, thank you, baby, Mama slurred, blinking at the chip mug. When do we get coffee? It's from work. When we getting our own? Next payday, I promise. Crystal nodded, setting the coffee down and fluttering the paper nervously. Did you sign this? So let's go back. One thing I want to talk about is when you are in a flash fiction and you only have 750 words. Now, yes, I am far below 750, but bear with me because we may add in some descriptors later on. In this case, you want to be careful about how many words you put in. I'm going to delete this first mama. While it serves to show that Crystal is a little timid of waking up her mother and is a little timid about getting her roused, it doesn't add anything to the story, really. It simply adds another word that I could use somewhere else in an already very starved piece. So just, Mama, wake up, Crystal murmured in a sweet southern drawl. Now, all those words are necessary because it gives us two pieces of information about her. One, she's soft-spoken, and two, she has a sweet southern drawl. She is a native Kentucky girl. Now, my accent is not Kentucky. It's very different from Kentucky because I am familiar with the North Georgia Appalachian area, not the Kentucky Appalachian area, and they do have different dialects, so please bear with me in my southern drawl. The second thing that we established is she grabbed a piece of paper off the side table tray because she didn't want to put a coffee ring on the paper. Clearly, this paper means something to her. Now, going back, I would say, because of the way I've positioned it, it sounds more like she's trying to keep the coffee ring off of the side table tray rather than the paper, so we need to figure out how to reword this a little bit. So grabbing a piece of paper off the side table tray so she wouldn't put a ring on it. So let me look and let me just think for a second. I think the issue here is that grabbing is too calm of a verb. I need to say something more like snatching a piece of paper off the side table tray or snapping up a piece of paper from the side table tray. No, that still doesn't work, does it? I still think snatching is the right word. Snatching up a piece of paper. So this is a prepositional phrase. I would say that we could delete it simply because I don't think we need from the side table tray because it adds too many words. It's not necessary. Context clues are there. I don't know of a single culture that doesn't put down a coffee cup or a teacup on a table. We understand where it's going. But the point is we want to make it clear that she does not want to get a coffee ring on the piece of paper because that piece of paper means something to her. So, Mama gave a curt noise. That's not the appropriate verb. I want to say made a curt noise. And I don't even think she needs to say anything like what. She just makes a curt noise. She's coming around, she's kind of groggy. You know, if you've ever tried to wake up your father or mother from a deep sleep, especially if they're sitting in front of the TV like Mama's doing, they're not really making any noise. They're just kind of grumbling and like coming to. So I don't think it's necessary for her to say what, which saves us another word. So Crystal says, made you some coffee. Oh, thank you, baby, Mama slurred, blinking at the chip mug. When do we get coffee? All right, so this is also important because it suggests that they don't normally have coffee. This is new for them. This is something special that Mom is kind of surprised by, almost delightedly, when we get coffee. Because, you know, she's like, oh, we made enough money this week that we could afford to get coffee? That's great. But then Crystal drops the boom on her and says it's from work. It's from the convenience store that she works in. And that's when Mama gets a little grumpy. She says, when we get in our own? And Crystal says, next payday, I promise, because this establishes that Crystal is the one making the primary income in this household. Mama can't do it. Mama is sick. Mama is tired. Mama is something. Something is going on with Mama that keeps her from being able to get her own job, to get her own money to make coffee. So next payday, I promise, Crystal nodded, setting the coffee down and fluttering the paper nervously. So we bring back that paper. Did you sign this? Sign what? Mama grumbled, reaching for the mug. So clearly by this we have established that Mama has not even looked at the paper, even though it means something to Crystal. which is going to irritate Crystal, simply because she wanted her mother to look at it. Did you sign this indicates that Crystal told her about it. Sign what means Mama wasn't paying attention and didn't even look at it. So, reaching for the mug. Her knobby, scabbed knuckles toppled over an orange plastic pill bottle on the table. One of many. So now we're getting an idea of what is going on with Mama. She's got some pill bottles. She's sick. Something's going on. We're going to figure it out slowly. So Crystal explains, the permission slip so I can shadow at the beauty school. All right. Next, Mom says, oh, no, I didn't. Why I got to sign it. So she doesn't need the O. Yes, in a normal conversation, we would have these filler words like, oh, but this is flash fiction. We don't have time or space for those. So we're going to cut it. No, I didn't. Why I got to sign it. So this is something else I want to address. So you may have read books, classical literature in school. Like I read Grapes of Wrath. I also read Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Both of them were using accents. They were using commas and apostrophes, basically wherever it made sense for their dialect of choice to make it make sense. Now, in modern day, one of the feedbacks that I got from one of the editors and judges was that while this was acceptable back in the classical literature era, most publishing companies and most competitions no longer appreciate having these dialect and accents written out for people, mostly because it confuses readers who aren't familiar with that language, that culture, that slang, that vernacular. So in this case, I did put in some phrases such as why I got to sign it, because that is something my granny would have said. And like I said, she is from North Georgia, Appalachia, not Kentucky, Appalachia, but either way, why I got to sign it is just not going to work because most common, average people, the majority population, they're just not going to get that phrase. It's not going to clue in with them. So in order to appeal to a broader audience, we really need to use a more academic way of writing this. So I'm simply going to say, why do I have to sign it? That's going to get it across. People are still going to understand that they are in Kentucky. I don't think it's going to affect the character much at all. So no, I didn't. Why do I have to sign it? Because I'm still 17. Mama, why do you need so many of these? Crystal picked up the bottles and silently read each label. Dr. Covington, Dr. Edwards, Dr. Gupta, fentanyl, Opana, Vicodin. All right, so one of the things that we have as an issue here is this end dash. A lot of editors will really jump on your case about these, and I'm bad about them. I don't know why it is, but authors are really bad about putting those in. I'm bad about it because sometimes my mind just skips. I have ADHD, it just jumps track randomly. It out of nowhere. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't expect it to make sense to you. It just does. So in this case, I'm going to take out that M dash because it's really not necessary. And it bothers a lot of people. It bothers editors. It's just, if you can cut one, cut it. So Dr. Covington, Dr. Edwards, Dr. Gupta, fentanyl, Opana, Vicodin. So one of the comments I got was that these three were not necessary. And while I agree with that normally they wouldn't be necessary, the reason I put these in is because I understand the opioid crisis in Appalachia right now. I've had family who have suffered from it. I've seen it firsthand. I know how it goes. So a lot of times what opioid addicts will do is they will get legitimate medication and legitimate prescriptions from various doctors in their area.